Good morning. Seb continued his discussion with me, asking why didn't the Supreme Court rule on that meaning ignorance of the law is not an excuse, for law enforcement officer excuses. And he says it was an 8-1 decision, but he doesn't bother to state what decision it was, so I am somewhat in the dark, as it were, both metaphorically and physically, considering the time of day it is. And let me try to make my best guess at what Seb is talking about. And my best guess is that he's talking about qualified immunity, that bogeyman that sovereign citizens and auditards don't understand, and they think that it allows the cops to commit crimes, when in reality it does not. To put Seb's mind at ease, there is no excuse, justification, defense, what have you, that law enforcement officers can give as a defense to a crime that states, I was ignorant of the law and therefore you can't find me guilty of this crime. There's none. If an officer is being tried for any crime, he cannot offer ignorance as his excuse for committing that crime. Now, qualified immunity is a thing that exists in federal courts, not state courts, just federal courts. It was developed to combat the flood of meritless claims that were being made against government officials of all stripes, including police, prison guards, things like that, for violations of rights. They weren't, in fact, violations of rights. You can punish people just by suing them because it costs a bunch of money to hire an attorney. You waste a bunch of time going to court, etc., etc. So the federal courts decided, well, we need to give these officers and other government officials quick escape buttons. If the case lacks merit, we need to get them out of it quick. And so they developed qualified immunity. And all qualified immunity says, in a civil case, remember we're talking about civil, this is for civil, not criminal, so it's not an excuse to commit a crime, it's not a justification or defense to committing a crime, it's immunity in a civil aspect. So if the right that the officer or other government official is accused of violating was not clearly established at the time the alleged violation took place, then you can't sue the officer for it because it wasn't clearly established. Now, what does that mean? If you go back to our discussion yesterday, where crimes are a big gray line, where once you're in that gray line, you may be detained, arrested, charged, or convicted. And the further into that line you get, the more likely those things happen in that particular order. And most people avoid that by staying as far away from that line as they possibly can. They stay out of the gray area. They don't get close. They don't make themselves targets. They don't act like assholes. Well, police officers, because of their jobs, have to play in that gray line. They have to play, not as far as committing crimes are concerned, but as far as violating rights are concerned. Because the Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. And there's no bright line delimiting when a arrest, when the force used to effect an arrest ceases being reasonable. And so the court has stated, I'm just using excessive force as an example, but the court has stated that until that line is clearly delineated, until that line is until it's clear that the cop is outside of that area, that gray zone, until that line is set for that cop, so that he has a reasonable opportunity to know that he's actually violating your right, then you can't sue him for it. Now, you can still use that violation of your rights to suppress evidence, or maybe to otherwise help your case. But you can't use it to sue the cop. The court doesn't say that your rights weren't violated, just that the right that you're asserting wasn't clearly established at the time that it was allegedly violated. And one other problem is that people who think like Seb file a lot of these lawsuits, these meritless lawsuits. And people like Seb don't realize that those lawsuits cost you and me money, lots and lots of money. Because not only do we have to pay for the court and the staff and the court time, all that other fun stuff, but it's usually the taxpayers who end up paying the bill for these decisions, who end up paying the judgments. So I guess maybe Seb should think about it a little bit more and figure out why we do the things we do and the way we do them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.